Welcome or welcome back to all of you amazing artists out there. I'm your art teacher, Mr. Guera, and it's time to build your baseline understanding for how to use watercolors. And paired with these tips and tricks is Buzu trading card number 14, Purrrty Puddles. 1 part animal classification, this creative kitty blends her feline agility with martial arts, making her painterly pounces perfect. And because she can produce watercolor paints through her fur, she is also part object classification. Okay, so this might seem obvious, but my first tip for you is to actually use watercolors, especially if you've never used them before. There are many different kinds of watercolor paints to choose from, including liquid, marker, and pan sets like this one. They're cheap, long-lasting, and easier to clean than acrylic and oil paints. And they even come with the paintbrush included. You can start with 3 drops of water onto your color of choice, making a teeny tiny puddle. Let those paintbrush bristles gently soak in the watercolor and you're good to go. Now when it comes to watercolors, the key word is gentle. So don't dig into the paints like you're holding a spoon. Using your watercolors in this way will likely waste the pigment and can ruin your masterpiece. And when it's time to clean up, keep your watercolor kit steady and level instead of tilting it, which will turn your 3-drop puddles into a sticky mess if you're not careful. And speaking of puddles, this character's first special ability is Puddle Protect, which is when she can morph into a paint puddle to avoid attacks. My next tip about watercolors is, whenever you're using them, consider the other materials. For example, the paper. Watercolor paper is widely available and usually comes with a bit of tooth. Tooth means that there is some texture to the paper, allowing for the better absorption of pigments and paints. Other types of paper that also work well with watercolor are multimedia paper and even cardstock, although these papers will be much more likely to curl up on you as they get wet. Consider using painter's tape to keep them held flat down onto your surface. Which brings us to Purrrty Puddles' second special ability, Watercolor Wash, which is when she creates a barrier so strong that Buzu faint briefly if they come into contact with it at all. When you're using watercolors, I'm going to encourage you to remember that the artwork is as much about the water as it is about the color. Use a paintbrush and water without any paint, and give your paper a layer of clear water before applying the color. This is called a wash. Applying watercolor to a wash is a great way to easily blend colors together, but not too much, or your color blending will soon turn into a mess. Purrrty Puddles' third and final special ability is Pigment Power, which is when her rapid kicks paint opponents awash in color.
Need to brush up on your knowledge about Buzu? Don't forget to download and print your character sheet for Purrrty Puddles. Link in the description below.
Well, I hate to let the cat out of the bag, but that's about all for this baseline briefing. I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope that these tricks and tips will help you on your watercolor way. And I will see you next time. Bye.